Labborc took care of the tools. The broken ones were replaced. They also brought files, and a few people were sharpening the drills and saws for days. Wheelbarrows were also provided to move the earth and stone. The work went better. Labborc got a pat on the shoulder for the good suggestions. There was another change later. Those who performed above the norm received half a ladle more soup in the evening, more bread than the others, and sometimes the outstanding workers were rewarded with the leftovers from lunch. From then on, the work was almost worth it. Labborc, Gazer and I, we all had good physique. Cricket was still young, but he was used to working hard. From then on, we performed above the norm every day, but we made sure that we didn't go too far. The brigades became motivated and we were using proper tools. Don't get me wrong, we were far from healthy. The food was neither varied nor nutritious enough. The doctors among us tried to care for the patients. They were given pens and paper to take notes. I was worried I would have to submit the diary and pencil too, but that didn't happen, much to my delight. Labborc was now known and respected by everyone. Many times he had to stand as a judge. His decision was accepted even by the ones he condemned. Many asked for his advice. He also helped organize the brigades. I don't know how he was able to do all that. It's hard to do something when nothing forces you to. When one descends to the level of basic necessities, such as food, shelter, sleep, then one's attention will also stay at that level. We worked hard to stay alive. But on top of that, Labborc had to do logistics, and he spoke on our behalf with the Mescans. He was cold and indifferent, but he did everything he had to. And a disturbing feeling about him started to creep up on us. After getting an acceptable amount of food, I began to crave love. I recalled all the lovely ladies I had known at home, thinking about things I liked in them and things I did not. There was someone special whom I had never been in a close relationship with, yet I always felt some inexplicable attraction to her, even though I was almost certain I didn't want to live my life with her. The following blog entry was made during this period. Diary, May 5th. Sadness isn't always the same. Well, not exactly sadness. It's a feeling people get when loneliness takes away the meaning of things. When the hands one tries to hold on to, release them. I want to talk to the one I always longed for, but for whom I have never been good enough. I'd like to ask her to spend some time with me. I want to tell her I feel lonely and need love, but no one wants to see an empty heart shattered. She doesn't need me to humbly ask her to talk. If she knew how desperately I long for her sweet embrace, she would probably just be scared. She would find me repulsive. She doesn't want to take care of my soul. Very few enjoy the company of a heartbroken man, and those who do have something wrong with them. I have to be strong and cheerful to be interesting. They like those, the ones that can provide. If I could see her, I would take the opportunity to have a meaningful conversation with her. That's what I have always liked. I would even settle for a banter. We have never even heard of soldiers bothering women, I'll give them that. The women's camp was separated from ours, and the two fences were about 10 feet apart. Soldiers rarely patrolled between them. Although it was forbidden, many times I found myself loitering by the fence, watching women going about their business in the distance. It wasn't just me. Throwing away our pride, we stood 4 to 5 feet apart by the fence and keenly spied on members of the opposite sex. Despite them being wrapped up in the shapeless prison outfits that didn't allow any intimate details to be seen. On one such occasion, a woman noticed me looking at her. There was no one else near me. She certainly saw me. I was convinced she knew what was going on my mind. I felt myself blushing. I hung my head in shame. Shortly after our gaze met, she looked away and walked to the side. I was about to leave remorsefully when I saw her again to my left. She came all the way to the fence and crossed in front of me, just over 10 meters away. She must have felt sorry for me as she was walking close to the fence and came back with some kind of belt tied around her waist. She let me admire her. She even smiled once. It was perfect. She didn't do it to see me craving her. It seemed like she wanted to make me feel a little better amongst the myriad of suffering. I was shocked by her selflessness. I didn't think such a thing could come from a woman. Maybe she just did it because she hoped I would give her something, I thought. Sometimes we threw things over the fence. Nonetheless, for the rest of the afternoon, I wandered staring into the distance with a blissful grin, hoping to have the chance someday to thank her for her kindness. We were given half an hour for lunch, not enough to do anything useful, but longer than the time needed to eat. We sat forming a small group. Dozens of our fellow prisoners did the same. "Did you notice Varga?" I asked with a little uncertainty. "There were rumors that he was trying to escape, but he was caught and shot, but we didn't see the body yet." We did not dare to talk about important topics at lunchtime. We could not know when any of our detainers would show up. But I felt like this was still within acceptable limits. As it turned out, the others shared my opinion on this. Labborc shook his head, but Cricket nodded. "Let's circle up," he suggested. The 4 of us leaned against each other, with our backs together, to notice if anyone was approaching. I cannot say it was a comfortable position, and we couldn't see each other's faces, but that's how we were best able to protect ourselves against anyone eavesdropping. "I've seen him several times," Cricket began. "He was on his way to madness. He wanted to convince his friends to break into the warehouse. Then, at lunch, the railroad workers used to take their lunch to work. He put his soup on the ground and started yelling, 'Do you want to eat this slop? I'll cook for you!' And he began to recite what he wanted to cook, about 10 different kinds of food. Goulash soup, potato casserole, stuffed cabbage, and so on. My salivary glands ramped up production." There was a bitter silence. We did not have the same response to hunger. Some sank into a kind of gloomy monotony, others apparently have been driven mad by the effects of starvation. The labor inspector came. He muttered something in Mescan, then said lunchtime was over. We looked at the soldier reluctantly, trying to figure out how serious he was. He repeated once more, a little louder. I put my pot in my haversack, but didn't stand up yet. "What did he say in Mescan?" "He's surprised at how quiet we are," Labborc said. "Okay, let's go. We have to meet the quota." Labborc stood up and started walking toward the tools. Seeing this, people started to move. Some quickly took a sip of the water bottle, then we headed back to work. I quickly put my beaters on and went after the others. When I caught up, Labborc was lacing a soldier's boots. I stopped a few meters away to see what was happening. Cricket also stepped next to me. We were already watching the absurd situation. Labborc finished the lacing and tied the shoes. The soldier thanked him, trying at the footwear, then laughed and headed for work. "What was that?" I asked Labborc. "His shoes are too big." I showed him a lacing that squeezes the leg backwards so it wouldn't wobble. I shook my head. As I was working, I was thinking about market day. I wondered what could I exchange for a new writing instrument so I could continue my diary for longer. We gathered on Wednesdays, southeast of the arms depot, because the place was hard for the soldiers to see. They didn't ban the exchange, but we didn't like their curiosity. "If everything stays like this, we can get through it," Labborc said while drilling. "Hopefully the situation doesn't get worse." He didn't seem to actually believe what he was saying. I didn't believe it either, but I nodded. "Hopefully." "Otalemi," I said hesitantly. A few seconds later, Cricket spoke. "Omaleng." "Orotaleg," I replied. I stood between Cricket and Geza, resting my fingers on the chain-link fence. After almost half a minute of silence, Geza joined. "Opshekmi," and the other is Borai. "Okmi," Cricket corrected. "I'm sure it ends with an I." We stared into the distance, moving our heads back and forth, sometimes squinting or trying to sharpen our eyes by blinking powerfully. "Something like Rokshi," I muttered. "What do you think, Labborc?" "I don't know," he replied. Further ahead, there was a sign by the road. We assumed that there were 2 place names written on it. "No use. It's too far away," Cricket said, sitting down on the ground. "We will read it when we are there," I added, looking around. "Let's go back before they make us." We weren't allowed to go near the fence. "But the longer one starts with an A." "Do you have a plan yet?" Geza asked as we walked further. Cricket jumped up and ran after us. We talked softly, always afraid. "So far, all I can think of is, if we could steal dynamite, it would help as a distraction," I said. "Wouldn't it be easier in silence, under the cover of the night?" Cricket said. "They're always watching. If we start climbing over the fence, they will see. If an accident happens, all the soldiers will be there." Cricket understood. "At least we hope so," I added. "But we don't know where we are or which way to go," Cricket worried. "Reading the board might help. I too could only hope that we would find our way home." "Let's escape first," Geza said. "Do you have a plan?" I turned to Labborc. "Not really," he replied quietly. I shook my head. "He's been at least thinking about it. That's good news." I was waiting for him to share his ideas, but nothing like that happened. "Please understand this. There is no one else who can save us." I turned away from him in frustration. He turned away and went to the tents. We sat in silence for a full minute. I found a small lump in the dust. I pressed it into the ground out of boredom and frustration. We were waiting for dinner. But at least he considered it. That's something. Diary, May 7. If the presidents would have to fight each other on a separate battlefield, they would probably not declare war so often. Rumor has it that the Meskans have asked for reinforcements. The uncertainty is the worst. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. We may stay in the railroad job. We might be assigned to a different job. We may get a pat on the shoulder for working better. Maybe half of the team will be transferred to another camp because they are afraid of us. Ever since Labborc became commander, people have become much more disciplined. He organized many things for us, such as better medical care. We even made a music band. Anyone who could play showed up, and we got a guitar, 2 drums, a trumpet, and a couple of guys sing. Sometimes there's a theater. I'm not very interested, but Labborc enjoys it so much, and even more so the music. Just so you know, there are still many sick and ailing. Only those who have done well so far can perform and have a better turn. We don't know what's going on with the war, though many would be interested. No new people have arrived in a long time, no one to inquire from. And even Labborc doesn't dare ask the Mascans about that. My pencil is getting shorter. I'm seriously worried about how I'm going to continue writing the diary. Diary, May 12. Labborc was taken. We don't know what they did to him. Tonight, shortly before the end of work, an officer came and told him to go with him. We didn't think badly then, but we haven't seen him since. It must be because of that crazy Varga's escape attempt. We found no other explanation. I'm really worried about him. We should figure something out. This could be a great predicament. Diary, May 13th. We didn't go for lunch today, and we didn't go to work either. It was my idea. The majority agreed. Not everyone wanted it at first, but we threatened them. We refused to negotiate with the translator. We won't get far without Labborc. We have to get him back if he's still alive. They can't do much. They need us to work. I hope they aren't willing to kill everyone. Diary, May 14th. Labborc was released this morning. He said he was beaten, interrogated, asked what he wanted to achieve and what his plans were. At least he didn't have to lie that he had no plans. Even if the news were true and they asked for reinforcements, it doesn't seem to have arrived. The number of soldiers did not increase. The weather is getting better. I am very happy about that, because nowadays we rarely feel cold. But with that, the bugs also appeared. But luckily, Labborc was able to make insect repellent from sage and other plants. More than enough, so we can even trade with it. It works well. I checked the embankment. It's unbelievable how much has been done since people started to actually work. I didn't want to believe my eyes. Diary, May 15th. I saw a ladder in my dream, and I had to climb up. I also dreamed many times that we would run away and head home. What are you up to? Labborc asked. I'm opening a hole, the friendly soldier replied. The ammunition depot was called a warehouse. We are happy with the new rules and tools. I know you were part of it. Yes, I bought the files for sharpening. Thank you, Labborc said humbly, not trying to flatter. Work is getting better because of the extra food. People are making sure they perform above the norm. The soldier smiled, placing his hand on Labborc's shoulder. When was the last time you drank wine? He asked. More than 2 years ago, Labborc replied. I'll bring some tomorrow, the soldier promised, and they headed for the ammunition depot. Labborc changed the subject. How long have you known the new superior? What's his name? Torben Lauric. He was promoted a year ago. And what do you think of him? Not a bad person, but he can be furious. The soldier took what he needed and put most of the stuff in Labborc's hand. Bring these. Another Mascan stepped beside him. I need the key. There's not enough beat. He looked ashamed. Labborc's interlocutor closed the door and handed over the keychain. Put it back afterwards. Labborc followed his man to the barracks. We watched the events from a few meters away. The dislike for the Mezcans spoke from Geza. I can't believe he's making friends with the soldiers again. Labborc gave me a significant look. It was already surprising that he looked me in the eye, but he even kept the eye contact and poked his chin at the guy who asked for the key. I didn't really know what my job was, but I started to follow the man for lack of a better idea. He pushed his wheelbarrow to the grocery store, loaded it with beet, and went on. I still followed him, just to be sure. He went to the kitchen, unloaded the beef, then walked around the building to enter the Mezcan's quarters, handed the key to the officer on duty, then returned the wheelbarrow to the warehouse in the east corner of the camp, and finally went back to the kitchen. Labborc found me hiding and questioned in detail where the soldier was going. He was nodding while I talked, as if what I was saying mattered. I was glad I did good. The next day I was standing at the fence. I was hoping to see the lovely woman, when Labborc brought 4 or 5 deciliters of red wine. We shared it with Geza. Cricket didn't want any. We drank slowly with great pleasure. I think it's time to answer some of the questions that may have arisen in the reader. How has the war begun? The Mezcans started to arm themselves for reasons related to their religion. The Tergas didn't stay idle seeing this. They attacked them before the Mezcan preparations were finished. So actually the Tergas and the Mezcans started war against each other. We, Shoandra, living next to them, only joined afterwards because the Mezcans once separated large areas from our country, so to this day significant minority of Shoandra lives in the Mezcan area. In our country, the population has been living in ever worse conditions. Any extreme philosophy is acceptable for people who have nowhere to go, cannot make a living, or feel threatened. Despair drives one to reckless actions. The leaders of our country claimed it was all because of the Mezcans, and we joined the war. It's not my job to decide if they were right or not, and I want to refrain from public issues, so I'll provide no further explanations. This story is meant to capture our personal experiences, not to justify an opinion on war politics or ideas. I think it's clear by now that the story won't be primarily about me. It's written by me, but I made it to honor Labborc's memory. The more I got to know him, the more I looked up to him, and the more I realized how little I knew him. Diary, May 16th. I just realized something extraordinary about Labborc. I never saw him fall or stumble. He doesn't drop or spill anything. Maybe it's just my imagination. As you can see, I got a ballpoint pen. Barely used. The booklet ends before the pen runs out, so I can write as much as I want. I'm very happy. I'll keep the pencil as a backup. Since Labborc's promotion, even the lunch queue is moving faster, which is good because this way we can sit more. Cricket is in the infirmary. There's nothing wrong with him. It's because of his ingenuity. He wanted to skip work. I didn't see what happened. Geza told me. The sleepers were piled up high to be transported to the embankment, but some fell. Cricket was standing beside them. He pretended that one fell on his foot. He started shouting and lay down on the floor holding his foot. Everyone noticed the noise of the thick logs falling, and the Mezcans saw Cricket standing there. They didn't ask what had happened. He was sent to the camp doctor, who laughed when he heard the story. He rubbed his foot thickly and sent him into the tent to lie down to sleep. This time it was a good thing that the Mezcans didn't even provide a doctor. The camp doctor would take our side. It's incredible how fast his mind is. I don't know how it occurred to him so fast that he wouldn't have to work if he pretended to be injured. I've already made an entry today, but I'm writing again because something very important has happened. I would record this even if I didn't have a pen, only the pencil. When Labborc heard that Cricket was in the hospital, his first words were, "You're right. We gotta get out of here."